shot. Oh, he's go home. On the line. Shoots. He's go home. And a great body check that stopped in his track. Dubois shot. He's go home.
And good morning from Canada Life Centre in downtown Winnipeg, where it's another Winnipeg Jets game day as they prepare for their first meeting of the season with the Chicago Blackhawks tonight. You can see, and they're in yellow, Dylan Sandberg, another day in that non-contact jersey. He continues to work his way back. The reporters inside the bowl. As you can see, I'm in the Exchange restaurant. I have pretty good sight, but I can't see through walls. However, the reporters in the building have said that Eric Comrie and Mikhail Burton are the two goaltenders on the ice, so no sign of Connor Hellebuck again. Head coach Paul Maurice will provide an update on that later on in the show. Of course, we have the player interviews. We have Paul Maurice. All of those will be live, so stay tuned to that. Lots to come on the show, of course, along with those interviews. We've got Paul Edmonds from 680 CJOB to set things up between the Jets and the Blackhawks. We're going to talk about some fun going on across the street over at True North Square in the Plaza. The president of Academy Hospitality, Bobby Matola, will join us to talk about that. So lots to discuss, along with your Jets Gear Save the Game, your 50-50 information, so much more, so stay tuned for that. But before we get to any of it, well, we got to look back at a successful night a couple of nights ago against the Dallas Stars in Game in 60. Tuesday night brought the exact type of start to a season-long homestand the Winnipeg Jets were looking for. The Jets scored 2 power play goals off the sticks of Josh Morrissey and Pierre-Luc Dubois, the latter extending his point streak to a career-best 8 games, then got a shootout winner from Mark Scheifele to earn a 4-3 victory over their Central Division rival, the Dallas Stars.
Slows down. Scheifele backhand shot. He's gone.
Paul Stastny had the other goal in regulation for the Jets, who are now 5-0-2 in their last 7 games.
You know, it was great. It was awesome to be back with the boys. It was it was awesome. I had a blast. It was huge to get the win, and so fun to be back. It was my first game in front of the Jets fans again, so it felt even better.
Don't want to brag, but the player to watch last game was Mark Scheifele, who scored the shootout winner. I just got to give myself credit whenever I can. 2 consecutive home games for the Winnipeg Jets and 2 consecutive appearances for Paul Edmonds on the JetsTV Live pregame show. Of course, he's the voice of the Winnipeg Jets on 680 CJOB. And Paul, just curious, I mean, we talked a little bit off the top. Eric Comrie, Mikhail Burton on the ice. Eric Comrie's got starts in 2 of the last 3 games. What have you seen? And, I mean, the improvement that he's had kind of even since the last time the Winnipeg Jets fans saw him, I guess would be a few years ago now. But obviously he's had some NHL starts and 2 real impressive ones so far this season.
Well, I think number one, you look at a guy that spent a lot of time in the American Hockey League and proved himself there and then just had to take the next step. And the next step came with an opportunity. And never before has he had an opportunity like he's had here this year, because as Paul Maurice has said, he knows that he's not going to be sent down. He knows that there's the next call coming for him at the NHL level. And I just think we've seen some maturity in him, the way he's handled the emotional side of that position, which is always difficult. And now he's ready to take that step, and he has with those 2 games that he's played. And there's a real good sort of sign pointing, Mitchell, that he's going to get a start again tonight based on what's going on in the current configuration and practice. But this is a guy that's been square to the puck, technically sound. He works at his game. He works at his craft. He handles the puck well. Rebound control has been very good for him. Fighting through screens, getting to the top of the blue ice to compete. So I think there's a lot of good elements about his game, and there's just some more growth still to happen for him. But I think when they anointed him the backup goaltender this year with not a whole lot of NHL experience, some people thought it was a bit of a risk, but it's at the same time, you have to give opportunities to players, and you have to take some of those risks. And so far, they've incurred the risk, and it's paid off for both the team and Eric Comrie.
He's absolutely embracing it and really prepared himself for it. Saw a sports psychologist for the first time, worked with one over the course of the offseason, and you'll always hear in his media availabilities just control what you can control, and he's had a real good focus on that, and it's been paying off so far. All right, next we move to the penalty kill, which Paul Maurice said, with the change in personnel, there was always going to be a little bit of an adjustment period. And then he also commented on, you start the year, if you start the year with a tough stretch on the penalty kill, you're going to be talking about it throughout the rest of the season. So here we are, November 5th, talking about it. Just your thoughts on what you've seen.
Well, once the numbers get inflated, as they did when they let in a couple of power play goals in each of the first few games, it's hard to bring them back down. But now you're at a situation where your goaltender has to be good, and I think the goaltending has been good. You've worked in some new personnel, so you're trying to increase your stable. You've gone back to a couple of guys that haven't killed penalties for a few years, and Wheeler and Scheifele and Stastny, bring them back in because you lost 3 really good penalty killers last year in Appleton, Lewis, and in Thompson, so those guys have to be replaced. But overall, I think one of the things that was hurting the Jets on the penalty kill was they were giving up that low to high and that shot from the point that was getting tipped in. They've eliminated that, Mitchell. But the problem is now that they just haven't been very good and very efficient on their clean dump outs after they've made a play to get possession of the puck inside their own zone. So it's as easy as saying right now, you've cleaned a few things up, and I know that it might look like at 31st overall in the league on your penalty kill, there's a lot more work to do. But I think once you get to those opportunities where you forced a fumble or a loose puck, you got to make sure it gets down the ice. The last game, certainly against Dallas, there was a couple of opportunities where they had a chance to clear, did not with the puck, stayed inside their zone, and give up a power play goal once again. So I think it's a work in progress. It will be for most of the year. But overall, I think that there's been some bad luck, and there has been some improvement on it, even though the numbers quite right now haven't shown that to be true.
Certainly a point of emphasis for the Winnipeg Jets going forward. Now we look ahead to the opponent tonight. We've talked a little bit about the past. Let's talk about tonight. Chicago Blackhawks. Tough start to the season, certainly on the ice, 1-7-2. Can they surprise the Jets tonight, and how can Winnipeg take advantage of a Chicago team that clearly not where they want to be?
Well, Patrick Kane's playing pretty well. He's over a point per game. I mean, Winnipegger Jonathan Toews hasn't scored a goal yet. He's got 6 assists in their time. They've got Marc-Andre Fleury, a Vezina Trophy winner. They've got Seth Jones, a pretty good defenseman, but they just haven't found that congruency just yet. So you look at the record and say, well, they're 1-8, right? They're coming in here, one of 3 matchups in the season series between the Jets and the Chicago Blackhawks. This should be easy for a team in Winnipeg that has rattled off points in 7 straight. But anything can happen in the National Hockey League, and I know you hear that all the time, and it might be cliche, but it's true. I mean, if you take your foot off the pedal tonight and you let your guard down a little bit here this evening, something might happen, and Marc-Andre Fleury, if he gets the start for the Blackhawks, could come in here and throw up a 0 and be impervious for you to try to beat. So I don't think that there's any sort of taking anybody lightly. I think Winnipeg will be prepared for this one. Remember, it's a continuation of this 7-game homestand, and you look at a team like Chicago where Winnipeg should make some hay against them. You want to make sure you do, especially with a team under 7 games under 500 and an opportunity for you to continue to roll on this 7-game homestand. It will be a challenge, but I think one Winnipeg can certainly answer tonight.
Paul Edmonds dropping by with some great analysis and also dropping words like congruency, which I'm going to have to, I got to up my game next time you're on because holy, that was impressive.
Class.
You really dropped that in there nice and smooth. Well done. Thanks for this, Paul. We'll look forward to your call tonight.
Yeah, my pleasure. Anytime, Mitchell.
Slide into the save of the game tonight. Tonight's save of the game, all 2019 Heritage Classic Navy jerseys are now 25% off. Choose from men's, women's, and kids' sizes available at any of our Jets Gear booths located through the concourse. That's 25% off all remaining 2019 Heritage Classic jerseys. Jets Gear, the official team store of the Winnipeg Jets. And once again, a reminder, registration is underway for the inaugural Ducky Pond Hockey Classic, which goes from January 13th to 16th out at Camp Manitou. There's an open division, a women's division, and it's capped at 72 teams. You win your division, you head to the World Pond Hockey Classic in Plaster Rock, New Brunswick next year. If that all doesn't sound good enough, there's going to be entertainment, viewing party of the Jets game on Saturday, food trucks, much more, with proceeds going to a number of charities such as Howard Chuck Strong and the True North Youth Foundation. To register or for more info, head to duckypondclassic.ca. Alrighty, a big welcome to Bobby Matola, the president of Academy Hospitality, who joins us now on the pregame show. First off, welcome.
Thanks for having me this morning.
Of course. Some exciting things going on across the street at True North Square all month with events called November in the Plaza. So if I'm a fan, now we've had one of these, but we'll get this info out to you. If I'm a fan, you show up with your QR code, showing the proof of vaccination. What can I expect to see when I arrive there?
Well, tonight we got a bunch of things going on. So first and foremost, we got great weather. So it's going to be 11 degrees today, 13 degrees tomorrow. We got a 40 by 80 canopy. We got some live entertainment. We got a hot stove. We're doing a collaboration with Matola Grocery and Lux Barbecue.
Nice.
With some mini hot dogs, some hamburgers, and lots of pints.
Well, I might actually end up over there instead of doing my game day responsibilities. So I'm outing myself right now. So whenever there's a lot to do, usually there's a whole lot of moving parts and people contributing to make this possible. How did this idea, this concept all come together?
Yeah, it really was a collaboration. So we work closely with Downtown Street Biz, Winnipeg Jets, Manitoba Moose, True North, and a lot of the other downtown vendors and participants. And it's really important to try to find ways to celebrate unique opportunities to spend some time together. And we just felt that by extending sort of the Hargrave Street Market and the Winnipeg Jets and Manitoba Moose platform into the plaza, made lots of sense for people to come together.
Certainly does, and I was talking to Jordy Douglas on Tuesday, of course, Winnipeg Jets alum. He was on the post-game show that night. He did one of the hot stoves at the first In the Plaza event, said it was even though it was the first one, commented on the energy there and how much fun he had. So it sounds like a good spot to be this weekend. You mentioned the weather. I mean, there's so many activities going on. I mean, I think I saw hot stove guests, culture performances. You guys got a lot going there.
Yeah, we do. And it goes, again, like you had said, it's for every game in the month of November. So 3 hours before puck drop on Winnipeg Jets and 2 hours before puck drop on the Manitoba Moose.
Fantastic. So that's, if I'm doing my math correctly, that'll be, 2 hours before? That'll be 4 o'clock today.
Correct.
That'll be, and then 3 o'clock tomorrow. So that's good. Hot stove guest
Great way
culture
to do
performances.
it was congruent. I should have put a word like that in there. It would have been a
So
lot
word
better.
of the day today. So of course you don't need a ticket to the game, but you do need to have your vaccination info. So make sure you have that. So I'll close just by saying if you need more information on it, truenorthsquare.com/intheplaza is the place to go. So Bobby, thanks so much for this. I really appreciate
Thanks
your time.
very much. Looking forward to seeing everyone.
Awesome. Let's dive into tonight's matchup board between the Winnipeg Jets and the Chicago Blackhawks. 5-2-2 are the Winnipeg Jets, and we talked about the power play, just how good it has been, especially on home ice and especially over the last 5 or 6 games or so. The Chicago Blackhawks, I mean, anytime you bring up the name Patrick Kane, well, you know that there's some skill on that power play. They're sitting at 23%. Penalty kill, 62.5%. That was something that Paul Edmonds and I just chatted about. The penalty kill has actually been a strength for the Chicago Blackhawks, hovering in and around 90%. Shot attempt percentage, of course, that's something that we'd like to take a look at. The Jets, anytime you're above 50%, that's a good thing. The Jets will, want to continue that and continue improving on that going forward. And, of course, no head-to-head record to speak of, as this is the first meeting of the season between the two teams. Let's look at the projected lines tonight. This was based on practice yesterday. Paul Stastny once again not taking the morning skate, although I fully expect Paul Maurice, when he meets the media in a little bit, to say that's the 35 and over club, so he has the option. One thing to keep a note on, Adam Lowry not on the ice this morning, so Paul Maurice will certainly have to go with the update on that. Now, the other thing, the other caveat that we have to present to you right now is we believe, this is based on practice yesterday, 12 forwards, 6 defensemen. Eric Comrie certainly looking like he's going to be the one getting the start. Mikhail Burden on the ice for morning skate as well. No Connor Hellebuck. Now, if Paul Maurice decides to go in 11-7, and Nathan Beaulieu would be the 7th defenseman to come in, I don't want to say it would be a surprise to us, but it would be something that we just can't predict due to the fact that the line rushes they ran yesterday were 12-6. So stay tuned to the end of the show to see if Paul Maurice elaborates on if they're going to go with 11-7. Now, coming out of the projected lines is the very important part of the show, the player to watch. And that's going to be number 26, Blake Wheeler. He picked up a point against the Dallas Stars, and that leaves him 1 point shy of 700 with the franchise. He'd be the first player to hit that mark, and I think he does it tonight. What a guarantee. Fans come to the JetsTV Live pregame show for my spicy takes, and that's about as spicy as it gets right there. Blake Wheeler, your player to watch tonight. The Manitoba Moose begin a 10-day road trip tonight that will take them to Milwaukee, Chicago, Rockford, and Grand Rapids. Now, into that road trip, they carry a 4-3 record so far this season. To get us all caught up on the month of October, here's Moose Monthly.
The Manitoba Moose kicked off the 21-22 season in October, and after spending the previous season out at Bell MTS Iceplex, the club was excited to again play in front of their home fans at Canada Life Centre. The Moose started out their campaign on the road with a quick 3-game trip through Toronto and Laval, and after dropping the first game, Manitoba bounced back in a big way, defeating the Marlies 5-0. Mikhail Burden made 18 stops to pick up his first shutout of the season. After the final game of the road trip, the Moose returned home to their fans at Canada Life Centre for their home opener. It would mark the first time Manitoba played in front of their home fans since March 8th of 2020, 593 days. In the opener, Cole Myers scored the lone goal for the club in the second period, while Mikhail Burton picked up his second shutout of the season. The next night, 2021 Moose Rookie of the Year and Jets 2020 first-round selection Cole Perfetti found his first of the season, while Jets sixth-rounder Arvid Holm made his first AHL start and picked up his first win, making 21 saves in the shootout victory. Two Moose rookies were also able to find the back of the net for their first AHL goals, with Thomas Caron and Winnipeg Jets 2019 second-round pick Simon Lundmark finding the back of the net in a 5-3 win over the Iowa Wild. The Moose have started off their season with a 4-3 0-0 record and will be looking to continue their climb up the standings. Manitoba is also back in the Central Division this season after playing in the temporary Canadian Division for the 2021 season. In the early stages of the campaign, David Gustafsson leads the team with 6 points in his first 7 games. Gustafsson also netted a shootout winner against the Grand Rapids Griffins during the homestand. Now here's Moose play-by-play announcer Daniel Fink with a look at October's feature prospect, David Gustafsson.
David Gustafsson was the Winnipeg Jets' second-round pick in 2018. After the 2020-21 season, he was named the Manitoba Moose MVP while racking up 19 points in 22 games. He's off to a good start in the 21-22 season, picking up a 4-point game on October 20th against the Laval Rocket. He kept that rolling on home ice with a goal and an assist against the Iowa Wild to wrap up the month. He has 6 points in 7 games to lead the Manitoba Moose in scoring.
The team kicked off their annual Share the Warmth campaign presented by Red River Co-op in support of Siloam Mission. Throughout the month, the club collected donations of hygiene products along with new or gently used winter clothing items at Red River Co-op locations. The items were gathered at the October 30th Moose game and sorted before being donated to Siloam Mission. The Moose will play 11 games in the month of November, with 5 of them at Canada Life Centre. On November 21st, the team will host its annual Hockey Fights Cancer game in support of Camp Quality Manitoba. And new this year, Manitoba Made Day will be on November 27th, where fans can pick up a pack of pierogies and stickers as well. For your tickets, as always, you can go to moosehockey.com/tickets. I'm Austin Siragusa, and that's Moose Monthly for October.
Hi, this is Neil Pionk, and you're watching JetsTV Live, presented by Budweiser.
As you can see, players getting after it a little bit with some skill work that they do just near the end of the morning skate. Of course, we'll have the players and head coach Paul Maurice's media availability as it starts. Looks like the formal part of morning skate at the very least has wrapped up. Little addition, Kyle Connor also did not skate. However, Connor, Stastny, and Lowry, all 3 of them that aren't participating in the morning skate, they all took part in yesterday's 40-minute practice. So I would anticipate that they'll be in, but head coach Paul Maurice will have the update on that. The other thing to mention is, in that Moose Monthly piece, shout out to Daniel Fink and Austin Siragusa. That suit game was incredible. So just want to make sure that that's out there. Obviously, the Winnipeg Jets are here for a long homestand. This is game 2 of 7. A little bit of a giveaway to keep an eye on coming on November 9th. That's the keychain giveaway. Look at those things. Real nice. The Heritage License Plate keychain giveaway is on November 9th, Jets fans, so be sure to get your tickets at winnipegjets.com/tickets to get your one-of-a-kind keychain. Seeing a lot of those Heritage License Plates around the city of Winnipeg as well, too, so that's really good to see. Obviously, you know, some of the proceeds from that go to True North Youth Foundation. Always good to see Winnipeggers getting those on their vehicles. Sliding into the other thing that you got to do tonight, which is check in to win, powered by Skip the Dishes. At tonight's game, you could win a pair of tickets to an upcoming Jets rivalry game. Plus, you can win additional prizes by playing a variety of exciting interactive games like Codebreaker, powered by Skip the Dishes, Jets IQ, and the Over-Under Challenge presented by Betway. If you don't have the Jets app, visit winnipegjets.com/app, join the fun, and check in to win below. Also, clearly, very important month on the National Hockey League schedule, as November is Hockey Fights Cancer Month, and we want you to join the fight. You can support by buying a warm-up jersey raffle ticket, purchasing a mystery puck or mini stick, or making a cash donation by visiting winnipegjets.com/hockeyfightscancer. All proceeds raised will be donated directly to Cancer Care Manitoba, going to support children and youth in their fight against cancer. Help hockey fight cancer today. Of course, the standby at Winnipeg Jets games, and of course, It was tickets available beginning at 9:30 a.m. every game day. That's about an hour ago, so you're already behind. No, I'm just kidding. You have lots of time to get your Winnipeg Jets 50/50 tickets presented by PlayNow.com. Tickets, like I said, go on sale every game day starting at 9:30 a.m. Buy yours online before the end of the third period of today's game to be included in the draw. The winner will take home half of the jackpot with all proceeds in support of the True North Youth Foundation. Buy your 50/50 tickets now at winnipegjets.com/5050. That's winnipegjets.com/5050. Lots of stuff going on winnipegjets.com. We have 50/50, we got Hockey Fights Cancer, and we have a new episode of Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets. Christian Vesalainen, who scored his first NHL goal a little bit earlier this season, was the guest, and you don't want to miss this interview that he did with Tyler Esquivel. It was asked him about, throughout the preseason, Christian Vesalainen's got his regular haircut, everything's all good, and then all of a sudden, I think it was either the first preseason game or the first regular season game, he was on the ice for the anthem and he had his helmet off and he had no hair anymore. So we asked if that was something to do, something that he was like, was it a haircut gone wrong? Was it something he wanted to do? And it also inspired his Halloween costume. So you really want to make sure that you listen to that one. All right, 10:51 a.m. That means the Winnipeg Jets are dialing down that morning skate. As you can see, Dylan Sandberg's still on the ice in that gold non-contact. He's probably the easiest one to make out at this point. When he progresses past the non-contact, it's going to be a real challenge for one particular Jets TV host. But alas, Pierre-Luc Dubois was one of the players on the ice this morning for the morning skate. A power play goal from him in the last game against the Dallas Stars means he carries a career-long 8-game point streak into tonight's game. It's tied for the second longest streak in the National Hockey League. He's got 11 points over the span of that streak. And it was interesting to hear him talk yesterday just about the things that he's still trying to add to his game. I'm one of the people guilty of forgetting how young he is just because he was drafted back in 2016 and he's just been in the league so long that all of a sudden you just think he's 27 years old, which he's clearly not. And he was talking about the things that he wants to add to his game. And the concept itself, he acknowledges, sounds pretty easy. It's, you want to be able to slow your game down. You want to be able to speed your game up. And for a team, especially with head coach Paul Maurice talking about we want to play as fast as possible, there's still an art of deception into the game that I think Pierre-Luc Dubois is trying to figure out. He would say previously if he slowed his game down a little bit, he wouldn't be able to pick it back up. Or if he was playing too fast, the lanes, the opportunities, they wouldn't be there because his pace of play would be ahead of what his line mates were trying to create out there. So he's been working on slowing down at the right time, speeding up at the right time, and being able to do both throughout the hockey game. So another chance for him to do that tonight. And then also, you look back at his goal against the Dallas Stars. It wasn't an end-to-end beauty. It was just one that went off his skate. But you think of the breaks that went against him last year, and as he says, last year versus all of a sudden, the pucks that were going off your skate and wide, well, now they're going off your skate and into the net. So good for Pierre-Luc Dubois. Once again, carries an 8-game point streak. That's a career long for him into tonight's game against the Chicago Blackhawks. Now, we've talked about the depth that the Winnipeg Jets have up front, especially with the way that they've been able to configure their lines, especially the top 9 over the last little bit. Connor, Dubois, Svechnikov, you don't really need to say much about them. They're a group that, has continued to produce for the Winnipeg Jets, especially over the course of the most recent road trip. They were a huge line for the Jets in that regard. And then you've got Ehlers, Kopp, and Stastny. That's a group that played together last year, had a really strong stretch. I think it was about the midway point of the season when they got put together, and it just seemed every night they were banging in a couple of points. Winnipeg Jets were getting wins. So that's a group that's been put together. And then with that, and Mark Scheifele and Blake Wheeler making their way back from COVID-19 protocol, they're playing with Adam Lowry, and it looks like, based on practice yesterday, that's how the line will be configured again tonight. So you have two established centers in Adam Lowry and Paul Stastny playing on the wing right now. And speaking about Adam Lowry specifically, Paul Maurice certainly sees him as a center. He's got a great body of work to be able to show that that's the position that he's real good at. And you only got to look back at some of the playoff runs the Jets have been in that, he's a guy that can shut down the other team's best, but he's also can be an offensive play driver. So when you put him with Scheifele and Wheeler, as you did in their first game together on Tuesday, they had 11 and a half minutes at 5-on-5 together, and they dictated play for the most part. The scoring chances, the shot attempts, the expected goals, all those things that Natural Stat Trick likes to take a look at, they were all in their favor. Should they stay together tonight, like all indications are that they will, it'll be interesting to see how they build on that, and it's something that Paul Maurice is very interested in because he feels like that line has a lot of potential. Adam Lowry's a guy that can get on the puck and can stay on the puck and keep possession. How many times do we see Mark Scheifele going into corners, holding off checks, holding on to possession? Blake Wheeler's a guy that can win puck battles, win puck races on the forecheck, and make things happen. And I don't think we even have to show how much skill Blake Wheeler has when it comes to passing the puck. The assists speak for themselves over the last number of years with him. So that's a line that's going to be interesting to watch for. Another line that was solid analytically, and I talked about them a little bit earlier, was Stastny, Kopp, and Ehlers. It's a trio that Paul Maurice used last season. You have Stastny, who can play center, playing on the wing. Maurice is more than confident in what Stastny can do in center. But I thought what was interesting is he mentioned that, if Stastny can make a nice transition to the wing, that might extend his career by a couple of years. And I thought that was an interesting comment because Paul Stastny's a guy that, had a fantastic career so far. Certainly has a ways to go before he even has to think about hanging them up. Even though, as Paul Maurice likes to say, he's in the 35 and over club. He's chipping in with points. He had a couple of big goals against the Nashville Predators. Big goal against the Dallas Stars on Tuesday. So clearly, still more than a adequate contributor, no matter where you put him, whether it's on the wing or at center. But the one thing that Paul Maurice was considering is maybe you put Paul Stastny back in the middle for a bit here. You move Andrew Kopp out to the wing, and maybe that frees up Andrew Kopp to use his speed a little bit more, which would help Nikolai Ehlers, a guy who obviously likes to play with some pace. So be curious if we can keep an eye on that, whether that's something that they go to tonight. And, of course, it all comes down to faceoffs too. Same as it does for that Lowry, Scheifele, Wheeler line. You got a right-handed and a left-handed center. You got, and on that line specifically, and they're able to, depending on their strong side, be able to make things happen no matter where you put them, whether it's an offensive zone draw or a defensive zone draw. So last thought on the Ehlers, Kopp, and Stastny line. That group on Tuesday held the edge in shot attempts, scoring chances, high danger chances, and most importantly, goals for and against the Stars when they were on the ice. The Winnipeg Jets continue on the ice here at Canada Life Center as they prepare for their first meeting of the season against the Chicago Blackhawks, who we talked with Paul Edmonds. Tough start to the season for the Blackhawks, who made so many changes in the offseason. They're 1-8-2, and in their last outing, they led a 3-2 lead over the Carolina Hurricanes after 40 minutes get away. Basically, they led 3-2 after 40. By 3:30 into the third, they were down 4-3, and ultimately that's how it would end. That came 2 days after a 5-1 win over the Ottawa Senators, which was their first win of the season. Now, familiar name leads the Blackhawks in points. That would be Patrick Kane. 11 points in the 7 games that he's played so far this season. Newly acquired Seth Jones is second on the team with 9 points in 11 games. That's all assists. And Jonathan Toews, hard not to mention him when they come to Winnipeg. 6 assists in 11 games. The other person we talked about with Paul Edmonds is Eric Comrie. Mentioned he worked with a sports psychologist in the offseason as a way of, I don't want to say controlling his mind, because that's not necessarily it. It's just giving him certain things to focus on, because he was a guy that I think he said he found he would go in the net and he'd try to do too much. Now the focus is control what you can control, and it really seems to be working for Eric Comrie. You talk about the game against the Los Angeles Kings, made 30 saves that night in his first win of the season, in his first start. All he wanted to do was skate well. That was it. And you think of a goaltender, how much does he really have to skate? But skating helps goaltenders get to their positions faster, more controlled. And that's probably the other word that I would use to describe Eric Comrie so far this year is controlled. He's a guy that has been able to be square to the puck. Rebound control has been pretty good throughout the year. Of course, every goaltender is going to have those goalmouth scrambles. That's the thing that I think he wants to work a little bit more on. But focusing on what you can control and not worrying about the point in the game or looking up at the clock and being like, okay, well, I just got to hold on for another 6 minutes here. Eric Comrie just seems to be quite dialed in. Looks like he'll be the one to get the start, depending on Connor Hellebuck, who did not skate this morning at Canada Life Center. It was once again Comrie and Mikhail Burden. couple more thoughts on Eric Comrie. Of course, he came up big in the shootout against Dallas, stopping 2 of 3. And honestly, he almost went 3 for 3. Joe Pavelski just slightly outweighting him and then took the shot that just beat Comrie's left leg and went under the glove. Comrie was extremely stretched out, and he probably missed the puck by maybe an inch. So he almost went 3 for 3. And dating back to last season when Comrie made his lone appearance with the New Jersey Devils, in his last three starts, Comrie is 3-0 with a 2.59 goals against average and a .913 save percentage. You can see the Jets continuing to work on the ice. Now we're waiting for the players and head coach Paul Maurice in the Matt Frost Media Center next door. It should be any minute now. Usually it's in and around 11 o'clock that they start to make their way over there. You saw a little bit earlier in the show, Neil Pionk was our nice little guy telling you that you're watching Jets TV. Real strong, real strong. He and Nate Schmidt lead the Jets with 8 assists this season, which is also tied for 4th among National Hockey League defensemen. Both players are tied for the NHL lead among defensemen with 3 multi-assist games so far this season, and that just really underlines the fact that the Jets are getting a lot of contributions from that back end. I talked a few games ago how last season about 17% of the total points the Jets were able to accumulate last season came from the back end. Well, now all of a sudden, especially earlier in the season, that was at about 30%, and it's not like the blue line has slowed down either. Schmidt's 2 assists away from matching the 10 assists he had last season with the Vancouver Canucks in the 54 games that he played. Neil Pionk's 76 assists since the start of the 2019-20 season ranks 8th among all NHL defensemen. So some great play by both Neil Pionk and Nate Schmidt. And it's hard not to talk about someone like Josh Morrissey, who has just been so huge on the power play, one of the team leaders in power play goals. Said he worked on his one-timer, something that he had to put some work in, and all of a sudden that puck comes over to him, and it was the same in practice yesterday. That puck comes over to him in that right circle, and he absolutely unleashes one-timers from there, and he was burying goals yesterday, burying goals against the Stars. That really seems to be a spot that he's extremely comfortable in, and something that I think the Winnipeg Jets have really found really works for them on their power play, because they've got 2 units now, and I thought what was interesting is Paul Maurice says now he can't necessarily just call it, the Scheifele unit or whatever. What he's been doing is calling it by the last player to score a goal on that unit. So yesterday in practice, Paul Maurice goes, all right, Dubois unit down here, the Cop unit down here. And I think the players get a real kick out of that, because I know Nikolai Ehlers last year was trying to get his unit called the Ehlers unit, but you know how these guys are, extremely competitive human beings. So they're going to want the power play unit named after them. Dylan Samberg continues to do work. Now remember, he had a high ankle sprain. That was the injury that he's trying to make his way back from. And I think I told this story earlier in the week, but it reminds me of the injury that Jacob Trouba had a few seasons ago. And, you work your way back, everything feels good, and then for some reason, that ankle just decides to tweak one more time. So hopefully that does not happen to Dylan Samberg, but I remember Paul Maurice saying at the time, you almost just anticipate it happening because it happens so frequently with these types of injuries. So Dylan Samberg, always good to see that he's able to get on the ice. This is the 3rd day consecutively that he's been able to skate with his teammates on the ice. He was a full participant yesterday outside of, obviously, contact. He was paired with Nathan Beaulieu in that situation. So, again, we don't know if the Winnipeg Jets are going to go 12 forwards and 6 defensemen or 11 and 7. Practice was 12 and 6. Maybe we lean towards 11 and 7 again tonight, just a hunch on my part, but we'll see how it goes. The other thing that the Jets have been pretty good at so far this year, they're 5-0-2 in their last 7, so they're doing a lot right, is winning by slim margins. And now I remember last year, a lot of the talk was their ability to bounce back and win games after they had lost. They didn't lose 2 in a row till very late in the season. So far, the Jets are real good in the 1-goal games, at least making sure they're getting out of there with a point. That's the main thing. They're 3-1-2 in 1-goal games this season. And Winnipeg's last 4 games have been decided by 1 goal, and they're 3-0-1 in that situation. And that's just one of those types of stats that can really bond a room together in terms of having that identity. And we talked about identity a number of times over the course of the last couple of weeks. You want to be a team that's able to come back. Well, the Jets obviously check that box as they were able to do it throughout the entire road trip. You don't want to lean on it. Definitely don't want to lean on it. But it's something that they're capable of doing. They get down 1-0. It's not really a bad thing, especially with the amount of firepower that we've been talking about the Winnipeg Jets having. And they're in and among the league leaders in the National Hockey League when it comes to goals in the third period. Actually, the game against the Dallas Stars would probably be one of the first times in recent memory, especially this season, that they haven't scored a goal in the third period. So anytime you can rely on your offense being able to be there for you in the third period is a good thing. So far, at least last season, it was the second period for the Jets. This year, it's the third. But if you can rely on being able to come back, well, that's important. And then over the last little while, especially during the home games, the Jets have been able to hang on to leads. And you want to be able to have confidence in a number of different styles of game, whether that be, and the Jets are going to get their first taste of an Eastern Conference opponent on Saturday against the New York Islanders. So whether you're in a game like against the New York Islanders, which will be no doubt tightly checking, but more of an Eastern Conference style, maybe a little bit less physical than what we've seen in the Western Conference. You want to be confident in that type of game. You want to be confident against Pacific Division opponents. Jets took 2 of 3 from the Anaheim Ducks, so there's some confidence there. Still trying to figure out the Sharks, where they're 0-1-1 against them. But San Jose's had a pretty solid start to the season, even with the amount of COVID protocol issues that they've had over the last little bit. So hopefully, health-wise for the San Jose Sharks, they're coming out on the other side of it. So the Jets have been able to come back. They've been able to hold leads. 1 goal a games they've been pretty good in. Obviously, these are all things that you can build on, especially when you've brought in new players on the blue line, Nate Schmidt, Brendan Dillon. And how about, let's give a little bit of credit here to Logan Stanley and Dylan DeMello, who maybe don't necessarily put up the statistics that the other 4 defensemen do, but they still do an incredible job. I mean, I was sitting next to Tyler, our manager of hockey content, also my boss. Hi, Tyler. Sitting next to him in the press box, and we were discussing just how there was a couple plays that Logan Stanley made that really it seems like only he can make. He's the guy that's able to, because of his size, because of his reach, able to close off some plays or break plays up that maybe even a defenseman at 6'4" isn't able to do because they're not able to get there. So he made a few of those plays against the Dallas Stars the other night. Looking forward to seeing a little bit more of that from him again tonight against the Chicago Blackhawks and, of course, going forward. And Dylan DeMello has always been a guy that comes in and just plays incredibly consistently, just makes these smart reads. Of course, Paul Maurice, that was one of the first things that came out of his mouth in Ottawa when the Jets acquired him. Oddly enough, I still remember Dylan DeMello's first game in a Jets jersey was in Ottawa against the very team that he was traded from. He's just a guy that's been able to tailor his game almost, not really tailor his game because you do come onto the ice in the National Hockey League with your own identity, your own type of game. But he's been able to adjust to different partners very well. I mean, he's had Josh Morrissey throughout the entire playoffs last year, and up until his injury, of course, in Game 1 against the Montreal Canadiens. That one I think DeMello is still pretty choked about because, man, like the way that Morrissey and DeMello were playing against the Edmonton Oilers was absolutely fantastic. Would have loved to have seen them go forward. But DeMello being paired with Logan Stanley, and it looks like they've been partners for years. If you listen to the Ground Control podcast, slight spoiler alert because I do talk about this on that episode, but that's a unit that, in terms of shot attempt differential at 5-on-5, they're on the positive side of it, as are many members of the Winnipeg Jets. So, and that's a good thing. You want to be, in terms of being on the ice against an opponent, you want to have more shot attempts going towards your opposition's net. Seems pretty simple, but that's just the way it is. Now, against the Stars, both of them were not on the positive side of that, but that's going to happen in one game samples. You'd like to be able to turn that around. So we talked about some of the forward lines as well. If you look back at that game against the Dallas Stars, Paul Stastny was actually your Corsi leader, according to Natural Stat Trick, at 75%. So when he was on the ice, there were 15 shot attempts for and 5 against. Nikolai Ehlers is always in and around the leaders of that category as well. He was second at 65%. So that's a good thing to see. The more members of your team that you have above 50%, that means you've got the puck an awful long time. And that doesn't even include overtime, where the Jets had the puck for about 4 minutes of the 5 minutes before they got into it. The other good thing to see against the Dallas Stars was obviously Mark Scheifele being back in the lineup. And you just never know, especially coming off. Now, Scheifele was asymptomatic. He did not have really much at all for symptoms other than the fact he just kept getting positive tests. He was able to come back into the lineup against the Dallas Stars. That was his first game back and played 21 minutes, which is an impressive performance. Blake Wheeler was symptomatic, as we remember. His first game back was against the Dallas Stars, and he played about 18 minutes. So both of those guys able to come back into the lineup, start making contributions. Scheifele, of course, had the game winner in the shootout, but he also had an assist in the game, couple of shots on goal. And it's just nice for the Winnipeg Jets. They were able to handle not having two of their leaders in the lineup, were able to get through those games with wins, and then put themselves in a good position in the Central Division standings, which I think at some point soon will start to put up the Central Division standings. Early on, everybody's kind of still trying to find out what kind of team they are. But, hey, the way the National Hockey League schedule works, especially nowadays, it really seems you get into that American Thanksgiving area of November, which is in a couple of weeks, and you would statistically more often than not you'd like to be in a playoff spot by that time. So still some time to go there. The Winnipeg Jets obviously want to use this homestand to be able to get themselves into a real good spot. They started out so well at home last year, and then obviously had the tough 7-game losing streak. Those losses all didn't come at home, but it obviously some of those losses did come on home ice. So they were hovering in and around 500 at home last year. So if you're able to get off to a real fire start here at Canada Life Centre, number one, great to have fans back in the building, and Nikolai Ehlers spoke about that yesterday. You want to be able to make hay on home ice, and so far the Winnipeg Jets have been able to do that, going 3-0. Speaking of Nikolai Ehlers, his dad, Heinz, was at practice yesterday, so that was pretty cool to see. Heinz is the head coach of the Danish men's national team that is obviously going to the Olympics. More on that story later. Let's head next door to the Matt Frost Media Center for our first player interview.
Now, 3 divisional battles in the first 9, and I think a lot of people would say they might have been the most entertaining of the games. Nashville and Dallas and Minnesota. Is there a style that you've seen to these Central Division games that's maybe a little different than the other games?
That's something that whoa, that's really loud. We talk about before the game. Back in the Central, make sure you get your meat sauce in today. It's going to be, they're going to be heavy matchups. They're going to be games that are going to have a little bit more, weight to them, right, not only in the standings, but just, in the corners as well, in front of the net. Just the games seem like they have a little bit more jam to them when you, and I think, this last couple days, last couple games that we've been playing, when you play against these teams, it's a lot of fun. You get a different look too, guys you haven't seen in a year and a half. I remember our last game against Calgary in the preseason. It was like, okay, we played each other 15, 20 times in the last, calendar year. I think it's about time to move on, to play some other teams. So I think that excitement too of getting back in and seeing that, our division is going to be really tight this year. And I think that's what also brings a little extra added oomph to the game.
And then, Brendan, you got a team like Chicago. They've only got 1 win, but they're a proud franchise with a rich history. So do you almost see them as a bit of a desperate opponent and a bit of a wounded animal in that sense?
Yeah, I think like Nate was saying, any of the Central teams, whether it's Arizona, you look at the standings and they're at the bottom. We've all known over the last couple of years now there's no easy wins or easy games in the NHL. And Chicago, they've got a lot of dangerous pieces. Their offense, power play, all these things, they can hurt you at any time. So I think they're a team that's obviously trying to get some momentum going. Fleury's a goalie that can steal a game on any given night. So we know what to expect. They're an as advertised team, a good team that, like you said, is proud. They want to do well. They want to get rolling. So just hopefully we can have a good game for ourselves tonight.
For both of you, as fellow high energy guys, what have you learned about Eric Comrie in your early stages here?
Shares my love for Price is Right in the morning, which is fun. He did win the Showcase Showdown bet today, so congrats to him.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be a good omen for tonight. He breaks a lot as well, and it's a fun guy to bounce off of. But, someone as well that you see, I go out and shoot on him before practice and on game days, and you can see that just like anybody that's hopefully high energy can also put it in a perspective of when you step on the ice and you step into situations he does bring that, he does dial himself way in. It's almost like a different person. It's actually really cool to see that you can have both sides of it, right? That's something that I try and have, that's what, guys like us try and have. And so it's been, for him, I think he's been really calm in games. He hasn't let any moments, get big on him, especially since he didn't play a lot of the first 7 games of the year, or 6 games of the year. Didn't, for that's a couple weeks, that's hot, it's tough. It's hard for a guy, and then he comes in and gets us a big win in LA and another win last game. And I think it just gives the guys a lot of confidence in him, knowing that he feels good about his game right now.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for Combs is you talk to anybody, coaches, players, he's one of the nicest, most hardworking guys every day. Seems like he's got 1,000 shots and he's still coming down to work with you at the end of practices. And I think those are guys that you want to root for and play, not that you're not going to play harder, but you want success for those guys. And to see for him, he's been with this organization for quite a few years now. He's, had some little stops in other teams, and he's proud to be a Winnipeg Jet, and you want to see success happen for those guys. So for Combs, I think everyone's happy for him. He's getting a great opportunity here with Helly out for a little bit, and I think he can just hopefully continue to build on it.
You talked about playing harder, and I know that's not what you mean, because you're going to play hard every night. But what is that dynamic between that and guys, defensemen maybe even, and the backup goaltender? Because you know what you get from Hellebuck every night, and he's the guy that's, he's the number 1 here, Vezina trophy winner, all that. How does it change the mentality at all, if it does, in front of a guy, especially when you get to know a guy like Eric and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is kind of what, like Schmidt was saying, is you understand how tough it is for a guy like him to play behind, such a great goalie in Bucky, and when you only know you're playing maybe 8, 10, however many games during a season, it's you understand how tough that is, and to go in and expect to be as good as the guy your partner is. So like you said, it's not like you're playing hard every single night, but you're just wanting to, whether that's the extra clear, extra block shot, maybe not just trying to rely on him, and not that we do that about Connor. I don't know if I'm talking in circles, but yeah, you just want to make sure you do your best for that guy because of the situations and back-to-back games, whatever it is, where your team's a little more tired. You're trying to find that extra gear. You just want to do the best for both your goalies, but
Hey, on the topic of goalies and really positive people, you would. I've gotten to know Marc-Andre really well, and in 2018, Jets fans certainly saw him at his best here in that West final, but he's had a tough go of late, and he spoke out recently and sounded quite frustrated at how things are going. He's only a year removed from winning the Vez, and do you believe this is a guy who's just, hopefully, I'm sure you hope it doesn't come tonight, but he's going to be trending up here soon?
Flower's an incredible person, and I think I said to Dilly this year, I was like, I hope that they lose 1-0 every game. No, I think Mark's the guy that just thrives in a situation, right? And then I think when you're going to see it. It's going to happen, and there's no way of keeping a guy like that down throughout an entire 82-game season. And I think it's going to come to a point where it will come out, and that will shine through for him. It's hard, when you're changing teams. Sometimes you get yourself, whether your family's integrating well. There's a lot of different variables, and I think it's pretty early to tell that for a guy like him who's got the pedigree to say that this is going to be his body of work for the year. I'd be willing to bet it is not going to be that way for him this year.
Nate, and again, it's a small sample. But, with 7 of your 8 points at home so far, is that matchups, juice from the crowd, different circumstances? Have you even thought about that at all?
I love playing at home. I love playing at home. It's awesome. We've got a great buzz in our rink, and I always think that always brings a little extra, especially when you guys make a good play, a big block, and the crowd gets into it. It gives guys excitement. The bench gets going. You feel that energy going up and down the seat there, and so I think that always plays a factor. And I didn't know that was the stat, so let's hope that continues.
Brendan, for you, just to go back to the Eric Comrie thing, one of the things Paul was talking about the day before or yesterday, the only difference is just how the goaltenders play the puck. And so from that perspective, have you guys worked a little extra with Eric on that, or has there been enough now to get a little bit of a comfortability factor on the difference between he and Connor?
Yeah, I think it's just a little bit of a confidence thing and doing it and getting more repetitions. And, we just talked about the amount of games played. I mean, Connor's touching the puck however many times and the amount of hundreds of games he's played over the last few years. And I think Eric's just getting more and more comfortable with doing it. And for us as a back end and, our centerman, whoever's the low guy is back, we're trying to do our best job of just chatting out there, communicating, letting him know what his surroundings. I think he's just been getting better and better here for these first few games that he's been doing it. So ultimately, it's just again, we've got some new defensemen, myself and Nate coming in too. Maybe some different calls, different things that just getting acquainted with it all. So ultimately, he's a confident guy who I think is getting better and better in all facets of his game. And I think for Connor, he more so tells us what to do, and I think we're, getting Eric a little more comfortable with doing that too.
Oh no.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no. Yeah. I mean, there's. Yeah. We're not doing any secret plays or anything. Yeah, that's for sure.
Bucky's always got some up his sleeve.
Yeah. Say forehand, it goes backhand.
Yeah.
Say backhand, it goes over that. Yeah.
Always gotta be on your toes.
Yeah.
But communication with Eric specifically, I mean, when maybe doesn't have the same sort of, even though he doesn't have the same sort of NHL experience that Connor does, what sort of things as a defenseman, are you looking for from him, and kind of how would you describe the style of communication?
It really comes down to us and whether or not what we see, if we can get the words out quick enough to him so that he doesn't have to be in a situation where there are varying degrees of levels of goalies that can handle the puck in the league, right? And you have a guy that, if all of a sudden this guy right on you, there's some guys in the league that, love that type of pressure, and some guys that just love to hear your voice and just get off their stick and get back in the net. So it's finding that fine balance between the guys and what they like to do. If he's going to stick in there a little longer to maybe wait a guy out or not, or if he's like, hey, I want to move it and get back in my net and let you guys do your thing. So I think you're seeing a lot more Eric coming out more out of the net more to do things the more he plays.
I feel like the old days of the goalies having one job of just stopping the puck is
it's no longer
less and less.
Makes our job a lot easier.
Oh, way easier.
Yeah. Can you expand on the Price is Right thing? Do you guys watch it in the morning, or is
we as in now we do.
Now you do. Okay.
I love it. I watch it in the morning. I think it's great. Now, like Nick Ehlers this morning was like, what is this? And then by the end of it, he was like, $32,464. And
$1, Bob.
So, $1, Bob. Or $1, Drew.
Perfect.
Thank you.
I mean, how do you even follow that up, to be honest? Great chatting from Nate Schmidt and Brendan Dillon. But you know what isn't $32,464? How is that? Not a bad segue at all. Tonight's save of the game, all 2019 Heritage Classic Navy jerseys are now 25% off. Choose from men's, women's, and kids sizes, available at any of our Jets Gear booths located through the concourse. That's 25% off all remaining 2019 Heritage Classic jerseys. Jets Gear, the official team store of the Winnipeg Jets. Check in to win. We have a little bit of time before head coach Paul Maurice meets the media, so you'll want to make sure you do that. It's powered by Skip the Dishes. You could win a pair of tickets to an upcoming Jets rivalry game, plus you can win additional prizes by playing a variety of exciting interactive games like Codebreaker, powered by Skip the Dishes, Jets IQ, and the Over-Under Challenge presented by Betway. If you don't have the Jets app, visit winnipegjets.com/app. Join the fun and check in to win now. Also, of course, it's Hockey Fights Cancer Month. We want you to join the fight. You can support by buying a warm-up jersey raffle ticket, purchasing a mystery puck or mini stick, or making a cash donation by visiting winnipegjets.com/hockeyfightscancer. All proceeds raised will be donated directly to Cancer Care Manitoba, going to support children and youth in their fight against cancer. Help hockey fight cancer today. And of course, Jets fans, now is the time to buy your Winnipeg Jets 50/50 tickets presented by PlayNow.com. Tickets go on sale every game day starting at 9:30 a.m. Buy yours online before the end of the third period of today's game to be included in the draw. The winner will take home half the jackpot with all proceeds in support of the True North Youth Foundation. Let's go next door to the Matt Frost Media Center.
We'll see him soon.
He would have passed, I guess, COVID.
Yeah, I don't know. How do you want to do this? I think if a guy tests positive, we'll tell you.
Yeah.
And then we'll tell you once, and then I'm not giving you a daily update on the guy. Is that fair? Okay, I don't have a positive test. So we're waiting for him to get better. He has to test a couple times just to see if he gets better, and if he gets better, he'll be good. So it's Nick Ehlers, where we are right now at the start of last year. Every day the guys get an itinerary sent to them for the next day, and at the bottom it says in asterisks and bold letters, if you have any symptoms, do not come to the rink and report it to Rob Millette as fast as you can.
So he's in protocol then?
Well,
How that would...
yeah, I mean, I get...
Move on. I'll talk to you about that.
He's going to give you the whole rundown, and only so you're not getting a whole bunch of different messages. So just try to give you one message. Because if you wake up and you got a headache, I don't know if that puts you in the protocol, right? If you got the sniffles, but... Are you chief compliance officer yet? This would really... I think if we put you in that role, it'd be nice for you.
So, safe to say Eric goes tonight and
Correct.
TBD for
Correct.
tomorrow?
Correct.
What does Eric's experience at the American League level mean in terms of the comfort level if you
Right.
can go back to back?
Right. There's a consideration to that. This is a guy who's played 3 in a row, right? And they've played back-to-back and traveled. So he has, in recent memory, experience. And it's not that long ago. The back-to-back wasn't thought about that much, and a whole bunch of goals. Well, I feel way better on the second night. But that's a goalie, right? Trying to get back in the net. So it may be a little bit like the pitch count, right? There never used to be pitch count. Now you get to a certain number, you're coming out. We normally don't play goalies back-to-back because you don't need to. But in certain circumstances, we would consider it. This might be one of those circumstances.
Outside of simply stopping pucks, what has Eric done to instill some of the confidence both in the coaching staff and his teammates in this early stretch?
Well, aside from his personality, and having been around him, you know what I'm talking about. It's been his training camp from day one has looked like his games. That's the big thing. He has been stopping pucks and solid and strong and highly consistent in his practices. So that what we're seeing in the games doesn't look anything different than the off days. So he's now had months of being in front, a month and a half of being in front of a hockey team and playing exactly the way he's playing in the games.
Does he handle it at all? Have you noticed him? Like, I mean, on the outside, there have been some criticisms coming out of preseason, or just question marks, I suppose, even. Have you noticed him handling that, or does it not faze him? Anything like that?
I don't think, for the most part, players are as attuned to what is said about them or thought about them as you might think, right? And for Eric, what we know about him from day one is this freakish consistency of personality. That after the second week you meet him, you think, well, that can't be him. Nobody's that nice, right? Nobody works that hard every day. And then a couple of years after, you go, well, that's just Eric Comrie. So I don't think it phases that guy one bit because it doesn't change his day. There's no manifestation of change that you say, okay, he's a different guy now, or now he's really trying, or now he's buckling down, or now he's pissed off. No, he's just, his strength, his gift is his ability to mentally train and mentally perform the same way every day.
Well, as much as Chicago only has the one win so far, but the way they played against Ottawa, they had a great Carolina team down by 2. Do you see in your advanced scouting that they're starting?
Yeah, so we would look at these guys, a different style of game, but the same way we viewed Los Angeles because they were 1-4. I mean, one maybe when we went in there, they had played St. Louis twice, Minnesota, Nashville, Dallas. So they had run a good stretch of teams and competed in all those games. So when you're watching the game, you're going, yeah, they're way better. So this is a really dangerous offensive team just on the skill level they have alone. And they're getting those chances in games. They're generating offense. They just haven't had. I thought Dallas could have won that game against Ottawa by 5 or 6. Like they generated an awful lot. So if you're not on it and you're casual about your defense against this, they're going to beat you, and then they're going to run a string of games again. So we come out of LA, and I believe they've won their next 3 games. The quality of their game is there right now.
And I don't know how many trade secrets you want to give out here, but what is it that they are doing so well in their penalty kill that has made them difficult to score against?
I think the part of their D-zone coverage is built a little bit like their penalty kill. They get to pucks quick, and they got a skill that if they touch it, it's going down. Right? They don't spend a lot more time in their own end. They're very patient with it. But when they go, they've got the timing of a penalty kill down right. They're really aggressive when they can be. They're not at all when they can't, and they don't spend any time in the gray area. They make really good decisions on their kill. So you'll see tonight when they're on us, and they look fast and they got good sticks and they're going to break up some plays, and then you'll see them come right off us and hold. And when they do that, they're positionally really solid. Block shots, they're getting in front of a lot of pucks.
Are you going with 11 and 7
I am,
tonight?
yep.
And would there be any concern then with having a game tomorrow as well, just about managing your forwards?
No. So what that hole on the fourth line does is it takes a bunch of guys, maybe 3 or 4 guys that don't run big minutes, and I give them a few more. So Andrew Kopp ran into 25 this year, but that was more because the other 2 guys were out of the lineup, and I was using them in a bunch of situations that I don't have to use them now. So we'll have more guys that'll go from 15 into the 17 and 18 more so than in last games. We had Kyle Connor, almost at 23 minutes, but that's an overtime game, so it won't affect it. Where we'll have to make a decision is tomorrow. We'll take a look at the minutes played, the load, how we're measuring that on these forwards, and see if, and then it only makes sense then if you're going to play that fourth line and take a few minutes from that top group.
And just to cover off the base, it's the same 11 guys as the other?
Correct.
Yeah, thanks.
Just back to Eric for a second, Paul. Is the consistency, whether it be through the practice and games that you were referencing back to training camp, is that one of the biggest differences or kind of biggest growth that you've seen in his game from last season?
Yeah, I guess there's all little things. I think sometimes for a young goaltender, it's just shots against NHL shooters, right? So every time you bring a young guy up, he gets ripped, up top especially, right? They're not used to these guys getting the puck off the stick as quick as they can, and you see it in training camp, right? And you see it like in almost the meaningless warm-up drills. Like after you've warmed the goalie up, maybe in the first one, these guys start to shoot to score, and they just tear these guys apart because they're coming right down the pipe still, or it's a 2-on-1, it's a warm-up, but you notice Helly doesn't. Right, like he'll get out a little further out, a little more square. He gets across the ice a little bit faster, and the young guys can't do that. Right, they're not used to it, so they get into it, and now he's into a rhythm where he's got that figured out. So he's more used to NHL shooters.
Well, what's stood out to you on the Dillon pairing so far?
I think when they came in, there was almost an over-aggressiveness maybe by the 2 of them, and they're settling into a game now. They're a great swing pair because we can use them to move the puck because they can move the puck and get up the ice, but they also play a pretty physical game. So we can use them against their heavier group. And then Morrissey and Schmidt can take maybe the speed group. Okay, guys.
That's head coach Paul Maurice. So 11 forwards, 7 defensemen for the Winnipeg Jets tonight. Eric Comrie gets the start. Connor Hellebuck has tested negative for COVID-19, but there's still some protocol for him to go through before he's allowed back. So hopefully the Winnipeg Jets see him soon. So once again, 11 forwards, 7 defensemen. Eric Comrie gets the start for the Winnipeg Jets against the Chicago Blackhawks tonight. That's it for the JetsTV Live pregame show presented by Budweiser. We'll see you after the game for the postgame show. We'll talk to you then.